Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to day 2 of the Dubai International Project Management Forum. And this morning parallel session, held under the theme of Bridging Communities, DIPMF is the most celebrated regional and global event focused on promoting the role of exceptional project management in delivering projects that not only increase the quality of people's lives, but projects that make difference to society and nation. The DIPMF highlights the international best practice in strategy, innovation, and management that is transforming the way projects create a long-lasting, sustainable impact on society, communities that they operate in. For the next 90 minutes, we will hear from those who are truly dedicated to human-centered AI. Each of our 3 speakers will speak for 30 minutes each and will allow a few minutes of their time at the end of their presentation for questions. I would now like to welcome our first speaker for the Customer Centricity Parallel Session, Andy Burns. Andy is the Principal Technical Project Manager and Chief Scrum Master at Siemens Digital Industries Software. Andy is a transformative leader in digital innovation, agile systems engineering, and enterprise-scale delivery. With over 2 decades of experience spanning software engineering, product lifecycle management (PLM), and agile transformation, he is renowned for driving large-scale innovation in regulated high-complexity environments. At Siemens, Andy leads 130 global Scrum team developing multi-critical PLM software for over 17,000 customers. His strategy agility has shaped the evolution of Siemens' AI-enabled platform, integrating DevOps, digital twins, model-based system, and engineering across the workforce of 2,000 engineers. He is a certified SAFE program consultant, ECP, PMP, PMI, ACP, and disciplined agile coach. He brings a pragmatic, value-driven approach to portfolio and program leadership, championing culture of continuous improvement through communities of practice and lean agile center of excellence. And the influence extends beyond Siemens. Please join me in welcoming Andy to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will try to get up here without falling down. I am so humbled to be here with you. My little profile there is so small compared to what goes on in Dubai. I'm a little nervous just from the plane ride in. But let me begin. Let me tell something personal, something that maybe will let you get a feeling for artificial intelligence. April Fool's Day, April 1st, an old man is in the gym lifting weights. Yes, this is me. I'm lifting weights with the young men. And I've got my body weight above me and I'm pushing and my shoulder makes this noise. It goes, "Arr." That's not a good noise. Arr. It's hurt. Pretty badly hurt. And interestingly enough, one of the young men comes over and he grabs the bar and he picks it up and goes, "I got you, Grandpa." So let's add insult to injury. So my friend Dr. Sharma looked at my MRI, and he looked at the imaging, and he said, "You've torn the supraspinatus, your bicep tendon is half parted, we need to get you in to see an orthopedic surgeon." So I don't know anything about orthopedic surgery. I'm a project manager. And what does everybody say when you need to go to the doctor, right? They say, you need to ask smart questions. Well, what smart questions would I ask? I'm terrified, to be honest. And so I took my MRI and I fed it to ChatGPT. And I trained ChatGPT to be my orthopedic surgeon. And I asked lots and lots of stupid questions to ChatGPT to get them out of the way. Because I'm a foolish old man. I already tore my arm out trying to keep up with the young men. And so I set up an agent. And I put that together, and the agent came back and said, there are 2 surgeries that could work. Maybe not. You're a little bit old, but we can try these. So about August, I finally got the courage up, and I went in and I talked to the orthopedic surgeon. And what was interesting is I had ChatGPT run a Monte Carlo simulation. 10,000 times go through and calculate what this orthopedic surgeon would say. Board-certified orthopedic surgeon focusing on shoulders and knees. What will he say? And they said 80% of the time he will recommend these two surgeries. And when I went in and talked to the doctor, he recommended these two surgeries. Now, the story doesn't quite end there because AI right now is not just about prompts. It's about collaborating with agents. And of course, in the US, it's not over when the doctor says you need surgery, because now you have to deal with the insurance company and the underwriters. And so I set up an underwriter agent, and I asked this underwriter agent, okay, United Healthcare, what will happen when I go in and give them this diagnosis and this plan from the doctor? Run a Monte Carlo simulation. Do this 10,000 times. And they said 60% of the time the insurance company will agree. And when I talked to the orthopedic surgeon about that, he said, yeah, that sounds about right. That's the state of affairs in the US these days as far as insurance goes. So that was back in August. Next week is the surgery. And everybody wish me luck. I'm an old man. Hopefully there's enough in there that they can fix it. But what I did to understand this, to get through the emotion of this situation, is I collaborated and I put together two agents created in ChatGPT, two domain experts. So I bring to you today 3 ideas that I'd like you to take away about using artificial intelligence. First off, there has to be an intent behind it. And the intent was, my intent was figure out about surgeries. The second thing that, really has to be is alignment. You have to understand what's going on, what the possibilities are. And AI can help you to streamline things and find that alignment. I realize the projects that I run are very small compared to what we see in Dubai. But I think some of these things will transfer to you, and some of these things may be useful. So I will try to work this machine. So my intent with this picture was to just get a nice headshot that could show up on the screen. The way that I tried to align it was I put in lots of pictures of myself. And then the innovation that occurred was it gave me that magnificent hair. I'm so happy with what AI did. AI can do wonderful things and it can do terrible things. So something to pay attention to. So I've talked a little bit about my personal bubble. I'll talk a little bit more about Siemens right now. And I know it's a different bubble than you all may deal with, but I think it will be useful. So this is what engineering used to look like. Bunch of people in a room at drafting tables. Everybody's doing something slightly different in this room. Some are doing the design, some are trying to figure out the parts that are needed. But, when we look at this, one thing we might say is, well, at least they're all co-located. And everybody would be happy about that. But really, if you think about it, the person in the back of that room and the person in the front, they're really not communicating. So we have a new version of co-location these days. And I know this screen is impossible to see, but no one's using drafting tables anymore. There's software. And on the left-hand side of the screen, perhaps we're looking at a design engineer, and she's coming up with brilliant new ideas. And my favorite design engineer is named Dana. And Dana is thinking about a Bluetooth shampoo bottle and why she likes this so much. And on the right-hand side is engineer Ed. And he's using similar software. He's just trying to figure out, do we have the parts to build this thing? And so this is the world that I serve. Different types of engineers trying to build different products. They're building the satellites that are above our heads. They're building the shoes that go on our children's feet. But these are the different types of tools. So when I talk about intention, creating that karmic energy that gets things done, when I talk about alignment, and when I talk about innovation, it sort of starts right here. So I have 4 engineers up on the screen, and they each have different intent. And for the purposes of this presentation, you can certainly assume that these engineers are not co-located. In fact, one is probably in China, one is in India, one is in Dubai, another one is in the US. These people are all over the world. And we have designer Dana, and she's got this brilliant idea. She wants to create this Bluetooth shampoo bottle. And there may be reasons that engineer Ed, working the bill of materials system, thinks that's great. There may be reasons why he hates it. And then there's manufacturer Mia. She's the person who has to put this thing together in the factory. And again, she'll love this idea and she'll hate it. And then Service Sam is the person who's got to go ahead and maintain this system. And you can see there are different people with different intentions for how to use this piece of software. And this is incredibly important. This machine has no intention, artificial intelligence. It's the intention that we give it. So we need leadership, and we need people that have clear intention, and they know what they want to do, so they can describe this. And these 4 people may have that clear intention, but they're separated by time and space. And so it's incredibly necessary to create a quick feedback loop. So set up agents. Set up agents that will give you an idea of 80% of what these people are likely to think. What are the requirements they will come up with? What are the designs they will like? What are the designs they will not like? Speed up the cycle. Learn more quickly. Think about what people will do. And you can see I'm talking about all the things that engineers and software engineers do, but I think on a very large civil engineering product, with Primavera and P6, there's lots of loops in that process, and you can shorten these loops up using AI. So I'll talk a little bit about each one of these people, and let's presume we've created some agents. Designer Dana has this wonderful idea for a Bluetooth shampoo bottle. And, she's thinking about it saying, I can really use this to personalize the experience. I can grab more market share. I can build a better product. What about the other people in the loop? Should we go ahead and build out all of the requirements for this Bluetooth shampoo bottle without getting feedback from other people? And with large language models, I can build anything instantly. I can build the biggest IEEE 830 requirements document you've ever seen in about 11 seconds and create waste beyond compare. So what is it we really need? And this is where these systems can be incredibly helpful. So here's Engineer Ed, and his primary concern is, do we actually have these parts? Or will we have to set up a new supply chain? And he's looking at this saying, Dana, this is a little complex. Do we really need this complexity? And we're going to put an electric device into a shower? I'm a little concerned we might electrocute people. He has some concerns and some reasons to hate this, and some reasons that we might need to mitigate the risk, some reasons that we might need to work on the design, some things that we may not think of initially. But he's also very excited about telemetry. And he's also very, very excited about innovation and being able to sell more product. So you can see these 2 personas, these 2 agents that we've set up are being put together. So this is beyond just simple prompt engineering. This is setting up an agent. This is saying, what do you think of this requirement agent from your perspective? What do you think about this design consideration? And we can go into very, very deep design thinking about each aspect of this product. And here's manufacturer Mia. And so she is, I'm going to say, in Pune, and she's got a complex assembly to put together, and she's much less thrilled about this. And she's got supply chain issues that are going to multiply. But she has something that's been really problematic, which is this circular economy, because we're no longer supposed to just create a product and throw it into the trash heap. At the end of the life cycle of that product, manufacturer Mia is supposed to be able to think about, how will I go ahead and recycle this product or put it back into my supply chain? How will I limit the waste? Ultimately, very efficient. And so she's excited about this too. So we found a leverage point just by working with these agents and thinking about what can be done. And then here's Service Sam, and I'm going to picture that he's from my hometown in Kentucky, and he's sending people all over the world to try and fix these things. And he's got some failure points. Electronics in a shower, he doesn't like it. Troubleshooting. What do you do when somebody calls and says, my shampoo bottle just knocked my refrigerator off the internet in my house? These days are coming, folks. Your doorbell will begin to fight with your toaster about who's in charge of your home Wi-Fi. And so you can see this extended set of possibilities, this extended set of people that you can simulate and think about. It's incredibly important. When we build our software, Picture a submarine rotating on screen. Break that submarine in half, take a piece out, look up the CAD drawings, look up the stress testing, look up the blueprinting, look up the circular economies around that product. It's all in the software. I don't know how they do any of that. I'm a fancy dance caller. I just tell people, time to sprint, here we go, do your demos, do-si-do. But if you think about all the possibilities of shortening the cycles, bringing things together more quickly, reacting more quickly, thinking about things that you haven't thought of. This is intent. This is bringing people into the loop. This is giving people tools to get things done. So I've talked a lot about intent, and I appreciate you letting me share my story about my shoulder. The next thing I wish to share is alignment. And we're looking at my particular alignment. So this is an agile framework, and this is basically definition of work. This is a work breakdown structure in the traditional PMI framework by any other name. And I think the argument about agile versus waterfall is pretty much dead. Who cares? I can generate anything, anytime with a large language model, everything, all at once. When do I need it? When will it be useful? When will it not create waste? And so when I look at this screen, I say, everybody coordinate, don't convolute. Build what you need just in time to get the job done. So I was at a conference with project controllers for oil refineries in DC, and they said, well, we do a lot of waterfall planning. I said, well, tell me about your plans. And they said, well, when we put in wells, you know, we put in one platform, and that platform goes to 5 wells. I said, well, so do you do the entire plan for each of those 5 wells up front? And they said, well, yeah, we do. I said, well, that's probably waste, isn't it? If that first well comes in dry, why would you build the next 5? Why are you going through all the trouble of creating 5 plans for new wells? And they said, well, that sort of makes sense. I'm like, yes, it makes entire sense, because everything you create now can be created in literally seconds. So the entire framework and wraparound for creating these plans for these drillers, if you give it to the AI and say, create me an 80% accurate model of that, it will come up. So now it becomes a game of when do you want that lowest level piece, that story or that work package, depending on, are you thinking PMI, scaled agile framework, how do you define your work? And so this is what I mean by alignment. And as you look at the screen, I know this is teeny tiny, and I hope you'll all get these slides. But this type of information can be stored in Primavera. It can be stored in Jira. It can be stored in any tool that you want. There is a nuance here that I ask everybody to commit to. Take note, when we estimate the top piece of work, we break it down into the lower piece of work. So epics begat capabilities, who are the parents of features, who are the parents of stories. And we estimate each one of these things to get the final estimate. The piece that most groups miss is rolling this back up and taking that information and updating their estimates as reality sets in. And I'd encourage everybody, as reality sets in, demand new estimates and pay attention to that. So where does innovation come from? And I'll go back to my last slide. So innovation typically comes from the top down, because that's where the intent is, right? We have an intent to get something done, and we share that with the organization, and we push that idea down. But there's a lot of innovation that needs to happen at every level and needs to roll back up. And so we call these innovation riptides. So in my company, we have this current which pulls things. And the current that we have at Siemens is at the story level. That's an individual software engineer creating a piece of functionality. They feed that back up to the feature. They feed that back up to the capability. They feed that information back up to the epic. That epic is the province of the CIO. So the individual software engineer has an opportunity, because we've designed this system to allow them to give feedback through this alignment. And so we've got a way to create innovation. And I'm losing my microphone, so I've got weird ears along with a bad shoulder. So what I would say to everybody is, think about the possibilities of getting innovation through this alignment. So my last slide here is just an invitation to chat. If any of this is really resonant with you, please do feel free to reach out. I would love to chat more about this. I'm incredibly interested in project management. I have been for many years. And I'm also one of the people that's writing the PMI standard for artificial intelligence and program portfolio and project management. And what I'd like to say there is I've written about 50 pages of that. It's about a 300-page document. So if you like the sections on portfolio, program, and project process, and you like the principles in that standard, congratulate PMI. And if you don't like those, you can blame me, because I'm the one who wrote it. And I think it's pretty good and should be useful. But I'd have to say, this is the third iteration of this presentation. And the first iteration, I was just talking about prompting, and that's completely changed now. And now it's all about coordinating agents, making sure you're feeding those agents correctly and setting things up. And I'm sure if we talk about this in a year, it will have changed again. The thing that will not change is leadership and people and having intent. The machine has no intent. It's a tool. But everybody in this room can bring their intent to their teams. And so I think I am done. And I would just say, are there any questions?
Thank you, Andy. This is really interesting presentation, and I'm sure somebody has a question. Any questions, guys? There's any questions?
Oh, please, I'm lonely.
No need to be shy. So it's like no judging. There is a question in the back.
I'm very seldom clear, and I've also been told that I have a voice that absorbs sound. So
exactly.
I work on that. Maybe a question in the back? I have a hand, thank you.
Yeah, the first one.
As my friend Dr. Sharma says, namaskara. Tell me, what is your question?
Do you think in the future AI can create the intent?
The gun that kills the wolf can also kill the shepherd. It scares me when people say AI will develop intent, because it should be unplugged immediately. But Singapore and Malaysia just told Elon Musk to get Grok out of there because it was spewing pornography. And Elon Musk had Grok apologize. Grok can't apologize. It's a tool. How could Grok apologize for something awful like that? So congratulations to Singapore and Malaysia for unplugging it. I think they should. I think intent will always be human. Now, Elon also has a company called Neuralink, where he's connecting the human brain to the machine. And now at that point where you have a hybrid system that's a machine plus the human brain connected to it, or superhuman, if you will, then I think we could have intent. But I would encourage everybody to realize that the intent is what you give it. And if you have a giant project and you're setting up agents, your intent should be in all of the agents for that project.
Actually, I asked this question because I have some concern. I think many people have the same concern, that in the future, a human will be like computers and the AI will be the human, Now, I think from now we need to set up some standards to limit the AI capability from creating intent and controlling the people or the human.
I would agree. So I don't know if everybody would know I'm a science fiction fan. And there's a lovely series called Dune written by Frank Herbert, where the humans actually declare jihad on AI. And they basically eliminate the use of computers altogether. I don't think we'll ever have to go to that level, but there are certain problems with Grok apologizing. Elon Musk should not be allowed to get away with that. He really shouldn't. He should own up to the fact that he did that. But I have tremendous hope because I've been using AI in my project management for the past 2 years very heavily. And it's a force multiplier. I'm getting the work done of about 12 project managers. I mean, literally, it's that good. And it is at the stage now where most of my email goes to an AI agent and Copilot, and the answer is written for me. And I'm just looking at the answers and deciding if I can go with that. And so my job has turned out from, in the morning trying to figure out what the email is to just looking at the answers and saying, can I send this? So, and thank you for these questions, and I'm sorry you got me on my science fiction track, but we're living in the age of science fiction. Can I tell you the sum of all fears? We're buying up all the computer capacity with fake money to put that computer capacity in data centers that don't exist, to create an economy that mathematically will not pay off. So people say that now, so I'm kind of interested. I believe it will pay off. But I would encourage everybody that's a project manager to read the standard we've created at PMI. I think it will be very useful. And I'm proud of the document, even though it will be out of date by the time it prints. Thank you for the question.
Can I have
Please,
final
one
question?
more.
Yes. Till now, as I know, PMI standards, thanks for people like you, are modified or edited by people. Some people, experts like you. Do you think in near future we'll find that, or like AI will be creating standards for us?
AI sees everything with 1,000 eyes. So when you ask AI a question like, tell me about management reserves in projects, and I'm sorry, that's a real insider nerd project management talk, right? There's a management reserve, there's a contingency reserve, blah, 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 blah. AI will go out and it will see every possible answer to that. Only one of those answers will be useful to you. So I think certifications will always be useful, expertise will always be useful, but here's the thing that's really changing, and I think I'm running out of time, right? Here's the thing that's really useful. Think about this, my friend. I'm really old. I'm 20 years older than you, I can tell. But when I came up, you had to develop skills. You had to get your 10,000 hours in a domain to be useful. To be able to commit as a project manager. The people that are coming up right now, all the domain expertise in the world is available in the large language models. How will that change the world? Do you need people that have so much expertise? And I think for project management, the answer will probably be no. You need smart people who can ask the language models the right question and set the agents up correctly. So I would say I know nothing about orthopedic surgery, but despite my emotion, despite my pain, I asked really good questions of the orthopedic surgeon. I've got 2 minutes. Okay, well, please. I did. So the question is, will AI get rid of project managers? And my answer is no. Project managers using AI will get rid of project managers. So I use AI every day. I'm probably doing the work that 12 people used to do, honestly, quite honestly. And I think that what should happen is everybody should take a lesson from Dubai and do more. We should have more projects, more work. We should create a bigger society that takes care of everybody. And we should have intent to do things properly. And I believe we're on the cusp of that, so that's the plus side. And so when people say project manager jobs will go away, I don't believe that. I hope there will be more projects. And flying into the plane last night and just looking at what's going on here, I'm so humbled. I'm just so humbled. It's just an incredible escape.
Look.
Can you say it one more time? Well, accuracy.
Yeah.
Well, you have to be smart enough to know it sees with 1,000 eyes. They're all blind.
But as you said, no, as an example of the orthopedic, for yourself itself. So you got an information. Then you went to a surgeon to discuss those things.
And you know, he said that's about right. He said 80% of doctors like me would approve this, and the insurance
But
company will only approve it 60%.
Again, the human interface will come in picture.
Oh,
Even though you
Yeah.
get an accuracy or anything, but still you have to rely on a human to get that. The data, whatever you have received from AI, is like certifying those data are correct or not.
yes, and so in the PMI standard, I need to get off the stage, but there's a principle on data, and I put that in. Thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed our chance to chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much. Andy will be around the event, so you can catch him later on around. You can ask him more questions if you like. Thank you, Andy, again. We will now move to our second presentation in the Human-Centered AI in Project Management parallel session. And we'll be joined by Yasmina Khalife, a Senior Project Manager and Telecommunication Engineer at Orange. Yasmina strives to build collaborative bridge between people to ensure success of international projects. Her ability to foster collaboration across matrix cross-functional teams has been a key driver of her success in delivering outcomes to her stakeholders. She relies on 3 pillars: project management skills, speaking multiple languages, and a passion for sharing knowledge. Along with her more than 20 years career at Orange, which is a large French multinational telecommunication corporation, she has sharpened her global leadership skills, delivering projects with major manufacturers and SIM card makers in Europe, Asia, and now in Middle East and Africa. Please join me in welcoming Yasmina to the stage.
Does it work? Oh, yes, it's working now. Thank you very much. So, bonjour. Hello, everyone. So, as said by Omar, thank you very much for the great introduction. For more than 20 years, I have worked and contributed to international projects. And I am used to hearing different accents in English. Well, hopefully, you will get used to my French accent. My accent is not so well as Andy in English. So, as project leaders, we cannot always choose the accents we hear, but we can choose how we lead, communicate, and collaborate in a global world. Today, I will share 3 stories from my career. Each one taught me how to navigate in diverse environments and how to refine my leadership skills. You know, process, methodology, and now AI alone, for me, haven't driven project success. But leadership skills did and still do. So as said, I work at Orange for more than 20 years, which I love. It's a French telecom operator like Etisalat here. And who are my customers? I work in a cross-functional structure serving the countries and business units. So most of the time, the customers are not the end users. I discovered it in my first software project. I had to lead the development of a mobile home screen. It was many years ago. It was quite innovative at that time. And I had no strong software background, by the way. Who was my customer? Anna, a marketing manager in London. The project team, developers and testers, was co-located. I knew them individually, but not in my role as a project leader. and the hardest was to come. In fact, I will always remember the first time my confidence was utterly shattered. I was pushed into the role by a manager who saw potential in me. But the project team saw something different. In one meeting, they aggressively questioned my credibility and the project's purpose. I was speechless, unable to answer their basic questions. It was a hard start, but I decided to take on the challenge. We had a plan with software releases, and once the software was ready, it was shared with Anna. She wrote a detailed specification, and we discussed the specification with her and the different features. But after reviewing the software, she had other implementation ideas and feedback, which led to rework. It wasn't sustainable. The lead developer suggested we had shorter time frame to deliver the software and have quicker feedback. I don't remember if he called it agile at that time, but I didn't care about the name. I cared about success. So I trusted his insight and moved to a more agile approach. I took a risk because it was something I didn't know about. I want you to take a moment and think about the last courageous leadership decision you made. What were the consequences? For me, that decision led to a successful project and taught me something powerful. Sometimes the best path forward isn't the one we planned, but the one we are brave enough to create. So I started the role with little trust capital, and at the end of the project, I had, honestly, big applause from the team. How? By building trust, developing credibility and reliability. I listened to Anna's feedback. I tried to understand her perspectives and expectations. I asked questions. I clarified. I reformulated. I summarized. I also listened to the developers because I was the bridge between the marketing manager and the developers, which the developers wanted. So when I had feedback from the developers, I shared with Anna. And at any rate, I shared all the results of these conversations transparently with everyone, even if there were disagreements, conflicts, or changes. I also gathered feedback. I had regular one-on-one with each team member to understand how I could improve my leadership skills. By building trust, I also developed credibility. When you begin a new role, credibility may take time and efforts. You need to learn the language of the field. You may have doubts. You may feel like a fraud, what we call imposter syndrome, and I'll talk more about it later. So you really need to surround yourself with trusted peers to get fresh perspectives. I had 2 or 3 project leaders I could reach out to get advice about leadership or technical questions. But what really helped me build credibility was consistency. I did what I said. And you know, working in a big corporate, you have regularly reorganizations. People have to move, have to change their roles. So what happened, I really did what I said. And if I say, I will share your feedback with Anna, I did it and got back to the developer, regardless of Anna's answers. Consistency not only builds credibility, but also reliability. I couldn't be a great developer. So I decided to be a tester. From time to time, I was side by side with the team, in the testing team, to experience from their side how it worked. Without knowing it, I did what psychologists call reflexive knowledge. It means to experience what the team is experiencing. And it was a way for me to get insights on how to improve collaboration and communication. Communication was my top priority because I experienced poor communication from different project leaders. So I communicated one-on-one, as I said, to gather feedback. I communicated in team. I sent email. I created a newsletter to highlight the individual contributions of the team. And I shared this newsletter with the management, which was appreciated by the team. And sometimes this newsletter, when needed, I owned my mistakes. I tried to learn from the mistakes. It was not so easy, but it's always a practice to learn from failures and mistakes. Then the years have passed, and I became the manager, project leader for applications and services in Samsung devices. It was at the beginning of Samsung Galaxy series. It was another scale of a project. Who were my customers? 5 European countries who wanted their devices to be launched on time with their services. That was a part I managed. It was another scale of a project team. Very diverse because we had program manager and technical experts in the UK, testing labs for the devices in Europe, application providers worldwide, marketing managers, France and UK, and 5 European countries. I had already some project management experience, not yet project certifications. But despite this experience, I faced some issues. Imposter syndrome, communication and collaboration issue. In that new role, I was not alone. I was going to replace Sarah, a younger, knowledgeable contractor. She was invaluable in onboarding me. But somehow, I thought I was chosen by luck for this role. So I had a lot of doubts, and I felt like a fraud. Imposter syndrome is a silent thief of confidence, and it stole mine. What was the consequence? Almost before each action, I asked Sarah's approval. Shall I send this email? Shall I talk to John? Shall I meet Rebecca? It became a habit, which reinforced my insecurity. Then Sarah's contract ended. I told her, thank you so much for your help, and good luck for your next job. I will always remember her words and her tone of voice. I should wishing you good luck, because you are the one who needs it. That moment made me realize that I had to rely on myself. Little by little, I found my footing, and I stopped seeing me as a fraud. 3 things helped me overcome imposter syndrome and can help you too. Track your small wins. Gather feedback, positive feedback from your communities and at work. When I say that, sometimes I thought also, and you may think, oh, it's arrogant to gather this kind of feedback. Oh, it's ego. For me, it really helped me because it forced me to listen to positive feedback. I tend to concentrate a lot on negative feedback because of the, I would say, culture, probably French culture, and also academic culture. So it really helped me a lot to keep these different emails, and when I have some doubts, I can read them again. But the most important is to leverage the good of community. And at that time, I had only 2 or 3 project leaders I can reach out. But later, I joined PMI as a volunteer, and it was a real booster of confidence. I could make a lot of friends. I could reach out. Some of them are in this room and at the forum, in fact. And through these conversations, I have understood that progress fuels growth. Focus on progress over perfection. You don't need to have all the answers, just the next step. I also faced some communication issue, and I want to tell you a story I usually don't really tell. I expected more collaboration from the program manager team in the UK. I expected more collaboration, but I didn't tell them. I said, okay, it's normal, we work together, so we can exchange, collaborate. It didn't happen. Each one was responsible respectfully for their own lanes. And then my frustration boiled over until one day I sent a direct emotional email, copying everyone, including the countries, our customers. I saw it as being transparent. They saw it as being aggressive. A few weeks later, in one meeting, face-to-face in London, the program manager told me, could you stay, please, after the meeting? We have something to tell you. I stayed, and it felt like a trial. And they were right. Copying the customers was really inappropriate. But their group brutal feedback left me exposed. And in the train back from London to Paris, alone, under the sea, I promised myself I will never do that to anyone. Group confrontation or escalation might be common in your working cultures. Ask yourself, how does it look like in the team's culture? How can you confront better one-on-one? I answered these questions, and since that experience, when I have an issue, I reach out directly, regularly, and really individually before any escalation, and never again via broadcast email. So I put here some tips. Choosing the right communication means to the topic is crucial in global teams, especially because in global teams, misunderstanding can happen easily. I had also to clarify abbreviations and acronyms. In my company, we use a lot of abbreviations and acronyms. Another important thing about English. So as you noticed, I suppose you noticed, English is not my native mother tongue. And what I have seen over the years, we really have to have the ground rule to use globish, global English, a simplified English for communication. It really helps, because at the beginning, my English was not so good, and sometimes when I received some emails, honestly, I had to sometimes to look in the dictionary. Nowadays it's much easier with all the translation tools. I felt quite uncomfortable to do that, in fact. After that experience, I also gained some intercultural knowledge. So if you have the possibility to gain intercultural knowledge, training, do it. But that's just the start. Because we need to observe, to ask questions, and what I have now, it's what we can call intercultural mentors, people I can reach out when I have questions. And the platinum rule is treat people as they want to be treated, not as you want to be treated. It will improve the collaboration. Talking about collaboration, so I wrote a blog about this, by the way. It took me years to have this kind of visual, to understand what I lack or not, what I need or not. And that's why I named the blog is Working With Me, User Manual. So, sometimes I tend to interrupt a lot of people, which is not good at all. But it's the way I think perhaps due to the language, etc. And I had to learn to stop doing that, because it was a source of conflicts in some global teams. What's your user manual? Perhaps you can draw also one. Then my last story. Years have passed, and I became the project leader for launching devices, mobile devices, in Middle East and Africa. We call it EMEA in my company. Who were the customers? 14 countries in Middle East and Africa. The project team was really diverse and hybrid, with mobile manufacturers in China, testing labs in Europe and China, technical experts in the UK, marketing managers in France, and 14 countries in Middle East and Africa. I had my project certification, my PhD at that time. I had some project experiences, so I was convinced I could tackle any challenges. Working in this new environment made me realize that I had to take into account the weight of history. France colonized many countries in Africa, which led to independence wars. I didn't know how sensitive my colleagues were to that topic, so I felt I needed to be cautious. And what I used, I didn't want to appear as the one giving lessons. So what I did is when I talked, and until now, because I still work with AMEA, when I talk to my local colleagues, I think strongly they are my local customers. They know their markets, and I can learn a lot from them. And by doing this, I noticed I could talk with more humility. I could listen better. And I could be more open to new ways of working. So at any point in our career as global project leaders, we need to cultivate curiosity, develop empathy, and encompass adaptability. I had to work with countries I have never been to, and perhaps will never travel to. And I have a confession. For some countries, I didn't even know where they were located in a map, their capitals or the languages spoken. So, how I learned a lot of things by listening and asking questions beyond small talks. So, what's also is important is to ask questions with respect and without projecting biases. Because even if sometimes I noticed I was convinced I was very open, but we all have biases, in fact. And what helped me also is to join diverse communities. Communities really helped me in my journey as a project leader. For example, I am a part of a marketing community. I felt a bit out of place at the beginning, but thanks to that community, I could meet authors, podcasters, even music producers, people I never meet at work. So once more, I could be more open to new ways of solving problems. And last but not least, develop strategies to learn new topics. I was listening to a podcast, Coaching for Leaders, very good podcast, by the way, and a professor of management at the Wharton School in the USA said that every night he tried to read an article about a topic he knew little about. And by doing this, he could make connections between things he couldn't do before. I cultivated curiosity, and I also strengthened empathy. Sometimes empathy is misunderstood. It is not being overly nice. You don't need to be best friends with stakeholders, avoid giving tough feedback, or accept unethical behavior. Empathy is a choice. According to Daniel Goleman, there are 3 forms. Emotional empathy, I feel what you feel. This is the most famous one. And it helps forge bonds in teams. Cognitive empathy, I trust your perspective. It is what I used, remember, with Anna, the marketing manager. I really tried to understand her perspectives. And by doing this, it positioned myself as a strategic business leader. And last, empathic concern. I care for you. As leaders, we need to value our teams, our people, for their skills, accomplishments, but also for being human. How to be more empathetic? Listen actively. It's not only being silent, nodding, or making eye contact. It is about listening beyond the words. listening to the tone of voice, pauses and silences. And by the way, pauses and silences are different from a language to another. You know, I worked a lot with UK, British people. And I remember I have a very nice colleague, I still work with him, Mark, and at the end of a sentence, usually there was a silence. And I was wondering, what's happening? Is it an internet connection issue? No, it was just very sensitive, he just stopped, he was respectful for him. Whereas in France, we tend to jump to the next sentence and to the next word. And we need to listen without shifting back to ourselves, without saying, oh, this is my experience, and talking. I did it a lot. And at the end, I completely forgot the person who asked the question. Last but not least, we need to value adaptability. And adaptability, I developed it a lot by volunteering, really. What I want to say about adaptability is it is not limited to different cultures or countries. It works a lot when organizational cultures are different. Recently, I had a cultural shock. I had to work back with some French people who didn't work internationally. We spoke in French, so you could think, oh, it's easy in that case. Not at all. Communication didn't work, and collaboration neither. So sometimes you may feel like a foreigner in your own country. We need to wrap up now. I want to leave you with 3 key takeaways. Be an adaptable leader. You cannot always choose the accents you hear, but you can choose how you and your teams adapt to it. Communication builds bridges. Your ability to observe, ask questions, will allow you to connect communities, even in the artificial intelligence age. And regardless of experiences, work titles, ages, stay humble, open, and curious. Before closing, I have a question for you. What is one story that made you grow as a more human leader? Please connect with me on LinkedIn, and I will sign my latest book, The Volunteering Journey to Project Leadership, in this room at 10 o'clock. So thank you so much, and merci. And now, over to Omar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yasmina. This was an eye-opener. I will try to implement some of the ideas that you mentioned in your presentation. All right.
Thank you.
And with that, we are already into our third and final session. Danielle Ward is a highly versatile leader who seamlessly bridges the world of advanced technology and international policy. Her career demonstrates a strong proficiency in complex project management and strategic global engagement. As a technical program manager at Google, Danielle has been instrumental in the secure development and the deployment of cutting-edge AI/ML solutions. She specializes in managing complex projects involving foundational models and secure cloud architecture, utilizing both agile, Scrum, and hybrid methodologies to drive innovation. Prior to her work in technology, Danielle had an extensive and impactful public service career, including a significant role as a Foreign Service Officer with the United States Department of State and the Office of United States Trade Representative, USTR. While serving at USTR and WTO in Geneva, Switzerland, she played a critical role as a key negotiator, articulately shaping and advocating for trade policy on the global stage. Welcome to the stage, Danielle. Please welcome her.
Before I start, did you want to ask him something? Sorry, Omar? I think.
Yasmina, she will be available after the session for book signing. You can ask her also after. Yeah, you can, at the end of the presentation, you can ask her.
Well, I don't know how I follow those two. Hopefully, I reaffirm what they've already said and answer some of the questions that were said today. So, صباح الخير. أنا اسمي دانييلا وورد وأنا سعيدة جدا أن أكون هنا أن أتحدث معكم عن الموضوع مهم جدا. My name is Danielle Ward, and I'm here to talk to you today about a topic that I feel very passionate about. And I think we got a little bit of context, but let me give you a little bit more context in why I'm so passionate about this. So, as you heard, for the majority of my career, I was in high-stakes international diplomacy as a Foreign Service officer. I worked negotiation both within embassies and at the World Trade Organization. And then after that, I came to Google as a technical program manager. And while those career fields seem light years apart, in reality, they're not. Really, all the negotiation at the World Trade Organization and with different countries was a training ground for being a technical program manager, as I'm sure you are all aware. Both of them are human problems that deal with human relationships, whether it's negotiating trade policy or helping marketing and the engineers come together and find consensus. So I've seen firsthand what happens when human intelligence and machine learning clash. And right now we are at a point where we need to pivot. There was a question asked earlier, I don't know where the gentleman went, about will AI make project managers obsolete? And I say no, it'll make project administration obsolete, inshallah. But the human aspect of the relationship is going to remain. So, raise your hand if you've had this same nightmare that I have. It's Friday afternoon, you're 3 levels deep into a spreadsheet that is arguably more complicated than the code that's actually running the product. And you're trying to change the cell from a burnt orange to a more palpable sunflower yellow, so maybe it doesn't scare the steering committee. Is that just me? Is that just a Danielle dream? I'm going to pretend you all raised your hands. It's kind of funny because that's the character of a project manager, right? We are the keepers of the Gantt charts. We're the task trackers, we're the askers of why, and is it done yet? And if it's not done yet, will it be done by Wednesday? How about Friday morning at 9? Can you get it done by then? I need to tell the steering committee it's done. So it's kind of interesting. In 2018, a survey done by West Monroe found that the majority of managers spend 3 to 4 hours a day on average on administrative tasks. And 25% of that group spent 5. You're spending the majority of your day on tasks that can be automated, right? So we, as project managers, we aggregate data, we copy and paste from one tool to another. Really, we are just highly paid human data routers when we can be so much more. Now I wanted to ask you a hypothetical question. So if your job today consists on tasks that you did yesterday, could an algorithm do it better tomorrow? So I'm going to repeat that. If everything you have to do today, all your tasks, were the same tasks you did yesterday, could an algorithm do it better tomorrow? And if the answer is yes, then that's where AI needs to step in. So So again, we're standing at the edge of this change. And something that I tell my sons is change is growth. But sometimes growth is painful because we have to learn. But if it wasn't worth it, then it wouldn't be hard. I don't think that this is going to be hard because I personally hate the administrative part of my job, but I love the human business because that's where you can make a difference. So hopefully we have growth, we have that change, and hopefully it's not too terrible. But now I'm going to quickly talk about why we're here, and then what AI can do to us, and then I'm going to talk about the 3 pillars on what I hope you will invest your time in moving forward. So, has anyone heard of the Watermelon Project before? All right, this is pretty fun. And if you're a project manager, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Imagine you go out to this beautiful field, there's beautiful watermelons everywhere you go, and your project manager friend passes you this beautiful watermelon. Everything is perfect. Perfect shades of green, on time, on budget, it looks great. So you grab that watermelon, you bring it to the stakeholder meeting, say a user acceptance test 2 weeks before delivery, and you cut it open and it's bright bleeding red, right? It's not green. So why does this happen? It's because the data said it was green, it was on budget, on time, but this is what we call the green status blind spot, right? Those colors can't articulate the context and the complexity of what they really mean, of the reality. They can't capture nuance or context or the unspoken truths of a project. So we have to be able to ask ourselves, does this project still add value? Or are we just delivering for the sake of having the deliverables checked off? Does it meet strategy? What's going on? Is there scope creep, right? Projects fail because the truth of the project rarely lives in Jira or Asana, or whatever your favorite project management tool is. I'm not promoting one or the other. But it also, think of it this way. If I have an engineer, I can understand when she says, yeah, I think we can hit that date. I think we can do it. Or when the customer keeps adding no thank you helpings, as my grandma called them, for all that scope creep of different features they'd like to add. The AI can only hear, yes, we can get it done on that time, and yes, we're going to add that feature. Whereas a PM, you can say, hey man, what's going on? Why did you hesitate? What's going on? Or maybe you need to have that more difficult conversation after you have a good rapport bucket with that stakeholder to explain to them why adding that feature is going to slow down their progress or maybe impact the actual status of the project. So a human PM not only sees the nonverbal hesitation, but understands the team and the players involved enough. An algorithm is just reading the yes. So we have been acting like machines for so long, and I love PMI, but I don't know if you guys have taken that PMP and all those different documents and artifacts that you need to make sure you know, right? How nice is it to have AI at least do the majority of that work and then go through and add the human touch to it? So now let's talk about where we are. So what does AI do for us? We already know that, according to a Gartner research, if they say by 2030, 80% of the administrative tasks that a project manager does is going to be obsolete. It's going to be completely handled by AI. Until then, we get to choose where we leverage it, but sooner or later, that choice is going to be made for us. AI can already scan code repositories, read email communication patterns, and look at login times to predict with terrifying accuracy if a project's going to be done on time. And it doesn't even sugarcoat it or give overly optimistic estimates, right, or guesstimates. So AI can, I don't know about you guys, Andy here talked about his emails already being ready to go in the morning, so you can come in and say like, oh yeah, that looks right. Oh no, that tone based on that person, this is not going to resonate. So you still have to look at a human eye, but the majority of that work has gone from writing and editing and re-editing to just editing, right? So AI, so here's a critical distinction, and this is kind of what this slide's about. Based on that statistic I gave you earlier on how much people spend on administrative tasks, this is very optimistic. 20 hours sounds amazing, but 15 hours is probably more likely. But I want to draw you to a historical fact. When they first invented the washing machine, they thought it was going to free us, right? Think of all that time we would have when we didn't have to go outside and wash the clothes and then scrub it and hang it and dry it and then fold it and get it inside. What did we do? We took that time and we filled it with other things. So what are we going to fill our time with now? What are we going to fill the 20 or 15 hours with, right? And that's what I want to talk to you today about. So, there we go. Sorry, I don't really prefer slides. but they were required. So what I want to talk to you today about is the 3 pillars that served me well as a Foreign Service officer in negotiations, whether it was handling the Northern Macedonian name issue or other trade dispute settlement board topics. So we're going to talk about relationships, consensus building or negotiation, and strategy, and your job is to be the strategic influencer. So this first one is really relationships and what it comes down to. And I'm really going to hopefully emphasize what Andy and Yasmin talked about before, because everything they said tracked, right? So I'm going to start with a story. And we're going to say this engineer's name is Sarah. So I started this role in a new project, and it was spiraling. It was a nightmare. It was that, oh, which color yellow do I put, because everyone's going to freak out when they see this, and I don't want to quite move it to red yet. And if I had let AI run this project, they would have seen that things weren't getting done, and they would have put in a resource shortage, and then they would have auto-assigned another engineer and another, right? But have you ever heard the phrase, 10 women can't birth 1 baby in 1 month? Right? I'm going to repeat that one more time. 10 women can't birth 1 baby in 1 month. Some things need more time. They don't need more people. So I did what I do best. I went and met with Sarah. And I didn't have any agenda. I wasn't going to give her a hard time about the schedule. I just wanted to get to know her. And I found out after talking with her that it wasn't that she was overworked or overburdened. It was she was paralyzed by perfectionism. She had just come from a different company, which a project didn't go well, and she was thrown under the bus for it. So she had an inability to trust the people around her and to put things out because she was afraid they would fail. So I spent that time building the relationship, helping her understand how we were going to get to yes, how we were going to document our decisions so that we were protected, and to let her know that I was not going to throw her under the bus. That's not my culture, and that's not my company's culture. That 1 hour saved the project. Not only did we get it back on track, but we moved into a second and a third phase. And we have a fantastic relationship now. So my question is, can ChatGPT or Claude, and I'm using them because we know Gemini's great, can they read that fear in that engineer's voice? Can the AI know what fear of failure feels like, or worry about being thrown under a bus? Just like you said, Grok can't apologize, right? Because Grok can't get in trouble. But people can, and people are held responsible, and that's what our job is. So going back to the gentleman's question earlier, can they replace project managers? No, but they can replace project administration. And also, I'm going to reiterate the work done by Daniel Goleman. Fantastic if you ever read it. But specifically that emotional intelligence is a concept that he focused on, and his research showed that the leaders with a high emotional intelligence are often more important than IQ or technical skills. And I'm going to follow that up by Google. Google in the early 2010s, which sounds so long ago now, has spent millions of dollars on a study to figure out why their most effective groups were so effective. And they were shocked to find out it wasn't IQ, it wasn't these niche technical super awesome skills, it was psychological safety. It was the idea that in a group, you can leverage strengths, support challenges, and speak truth to power. And that goes such a long way. If Sarah had had that at her last company, she wouldn't have had all the problems she's having now. So, good on Google. McKinsey also followed that up they showed that teams with high psychological safety are 76% more engaged and 50% more productive. So just by making a safe place, you're going to have more engagement, more productivity, and more efficiency. And it's not hard. Just be a nice person. So I also want to talk about one more principle with relationships. And this is the work done by Dr. Robert Cialdini, which he talks about the principle of reciprocity. And we'll get into why this is important in a second. But he did a study with, so the premise behind it is that when you do something for someone, there's an unconscious obligation to return the favor, whether it's explicit or not. So we're going to go with a waiter, right? They did a study, and if a waiter came and gave a mint with a check, tips went up 3%. But if they gave 2 mints, it went up 14%. But if that waiter went and gave it a mint, turned around, and then turned back and said, hey, you guys were awesome, here's an extra mint, tips went up 23%, right? Because there was an unconscious obligation to, reciprocate. Now here's the problem with being a PM. We wait till the crisis before we ask for a favor, right? Before we say like, hey, can you stay late and work on this? Hey, Saturday we're doing a cutover, I really need you on board. What we need to do and use our time is to build those relationships and invest in those emotional bank accounts, which I call rapport buckets, early and often, so that when you do need them, you have money to withdraw from the bank, right? You're ready to go. So again, it's just being proactive about building those relationships and making it intentional. Okay. Sorry, I know we're running short on time. So the second pillar is consensus building. You can call it negotiation. But really, AI operates on logic. If A, then B, right? It assumes that if people have the optimal data, they're going to make the most logical decision. So please raise your hand if you work with people who always make the best decisions, the most logical ones, based on optimal data. Anyone, world events? I don't know. Right? So the idea is that people actually make decisions based on emotions, on feelings, on fear and trust, not on data. It's your job as the PM to take that data and craft a narrative to make sure that you are playing on the parts that they need to make the optimal decision. So there's a great book, I highly recommend it. It's called Getting to Yes by Roger Fisher and William Ury of the Harvard Negotiation Project. And what they say is that really to do well in negotiations, you have to not understand what the end state is, but the motivations to get there. What are the interests? What is the background? Did this person have something happen in their childhood and that's why they don't want the blue bucket versus the red bucket? But understanding what and why behind it. So another example is I had a colleague named, well, let's call him William, and he had a massive product launch. Marketing wanted this flashy, AI-driven feature, and the engineers were like, whoa, slow down. We're not ready, it's not stable. So this was a conflict of values. If AI was running this project, they would say, it's stalled, and not be able to get to the why. William, he didn't look at his Gantt chart or his spreadsheet. He went and took each group, applying the principles of getting to yes, and sat down with them independently and found out that marketing, it wasn't that they just wanted a flashy release, they wanted to show innovation in the market. So it was more a bigger motivation. And the engineers, it wasn't that they were just so worried that it would break, they were worried about the long-term consequences should it be unstable with the company's reputation, right? So seeing that, he was able to put both of them together, and he asked them, so let's look at a 5-year strategy for long-term company survival. What's going to be worse if it doesn't work? The income that we're going to lose or the reputation? Both of them wanted the company to survive. So they were able to find a compromise. They decided to launch it as a beta, so marketing got their innovation, and the engineers were able to protect their reputation. When I worked in negotiations, I always used to tell everyone at the table, a compromise wasn't successful unless everyone leaves unhappy. If someone's just completely happy, that wasn't a compromise. You didn't lose anything. So you have to lose and you have to win. So the last one is strategic guidance. And really what this is you have to be the guardians of why. So we often talk about tactical actions supporting strategic goals, but in the heat of delivery, teams forget the strategy, right? They are just focused on that JIRA ticket. We like to say they see the tree, but they don't see the forest. You have to pay attention to where that tree is planted and what it's going to look like in 5 years. That's the difference, and I think Andy hit on that really well earlier. So interestingly enough, PMI research provide a powerful business case for this. They found that when projects are tightly aligned with strategy, they are 57% more likely to deliver their business benefits, and 50% more likely to finish on time, and 45% more likely to stay within budget. Your job is to be the bridge between that 2-week sprint and the company's 5-year, 4-month, whatever goal they have, because AI can't do it. And you have a vested interest. AI has the interest that it tells them to vest, right? So this is the strategic interpretation is really just taking that information and making sure that it aligns with what you really want down the road, or what you know that Bob thinks he wants down the road, because sometimes those CFOs or the CIOs or the CEOs may not have that vision. We are entering a new age. The project manager title might even fade away to something like strategic delivery lead, which I think kind of sounds nice. But I implore you, don't fear the automation, embrace it. Let the AI update the schedule, let it hound the people for their status updates. You have more important things to do, more things that only a human can do. You need to go have coffee with Sarah, find out why she's behind, and work on your emotional intelligence and building that rapport bucket or that emotional bank account. You need to get marketing and the engineering in the same room and come up with an agreement that they both can be happy and upset with, right? And then you need to make sure that what you're building today is strategically aligned with what you're building 5 years from now. The machines are coming to manage the tasks. Fantastic. Let them. I don't want to do it. I want to work with the people, the things that I do best, the things where I can show the most value. I want to leave you with one last quote that I use in every part of my life, especially with my kids. You can only, you can only buy time or lose it, but you get to decide, I'm sorry, let me restart that one. You can't buy time or save it, you can only spend it. So you have to decide how you spend that moving forward. I hope that you spend the time that AI will give you on things that matter, things that only a human can do. Be a good person. Build those relationships before you need a favor. And then pay attention to the strategy. Don't just look at the tree, look at the forest. All right, I'm happy to answer any questions. Good.
Thank you so much, Daniela. Actually, I was planning to ask this question for Yasmina, but I believe it is connected as well.
Okay.
Since Yasmina, she's working in Orange, and I had experience in working in MTN, South African telecommunication company. My question is that we were working on the customer service. We were hundreds of people taking phone calls from angry customers, upset customers, all type of customers. Yeah. We were sometimes crying because, the customer will abuse the agent, and sometimes we were getting compassionate because a woman would call from her friend's mobile number to say somebody has stolen her mobile.
Yeah.
So, all of these things about customer service, and since everyone called the customer service, expect to get his problem or her problem solved. How do you think that this intelligence, emotional intelligence, may be introduced with AI? Like, would you one time start to call AI who will be really compassionate with you, who would really feel it with you? If you know what I mean, also in terms of language barrier, do you see like the customer service section will be like maybe not there anymore by humans in the coming few years with this strong advent of AI? How do you see that? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we have to get. Can I get the sound, please? Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your question. Yes, for the customer part services, I don't work in customer part, but you are right. We are introducing at Orange AI, because, for example, if I contact the customer service, I have the first contact with the AI part, and after I can ask to be redirected to an agent. So AI is used at the moment in our customer part to try to answer simple questions, because sometimes we just need to have one question very simple, and AI is taking that question. If AI cannot answer that, at the end, AI is going to say, do you want to talk to an agent? And then is redirected to the agent. From my point of view, what it can help is, as we said, you have a lot of customers who are angry when they call. They are frustrated. In fact, so what I have seen by personal experiences is a human part can be a bit more relaxed, because thanks to AI, it can have a first history of what the customer is asking, in fact, because the first contact will be with AI in the way we manage now at Orange. And when we go to the customer can say to the customer agent can say, oh, hello, Jen, thank you for what you requested. I understood you have to do this and this and this. So at the moment, that is the way we use it, AI, also to have, we have a lot of customer calls, and we use it also to have kind of lessons learned, because we have a lot of data, in fact, coming from these calls. And the customers, sometimes there are very touchy technical questions to be solved, in fact. So the customer agent can check in the database with AI if an answer was already given. So that's the way I see, but that's the first answer I can give it to you. But connect with me, and I will, if not satisfying, then I can find more information for you, in fact.
Question in the back.
Go ahead.
Hello, yeah. Hi, this is a bit of a futurist question. Today we've addressed AI, and we've asked and wondered about the AI's emotional capability. Can AI produce human emotional reactions, human emotional support? Okay. I believe that AI can be trained to be just as emotional as human beings. This is something that I was wondering what sort of consensus there is here, and those who are in AI, whether you think AI can be lifted to the point of demonstrating emotional values, human emotional values and human emotional reactions.
That's a really good question, and I think it depends on the need of the person needing that emotional feedback, right? So sure, we can train AI on how to respond, and the probability that response will be well accepted based on certain words or pauses or tones, but that human interaction is never going to go away, and that's why I personally value face-to-face meetings with my customers, because statistically speaking, it is exponentially more difficult to say no in person to a human. It's easier to do it on the phone, it's easier to do it on the web, but having that in-person emotional connection, even if it's like, hey Frank, hey, I know your kid got hurt, how's his arm? Just remembering those little things. AI might do it, but you know that the AI at the end of the day doesn't care. So it just depends on what you're actually looking for as a customer. Go ahead.
So thank you for that. See, where I'm coming from, okay, is that emotion is something that is innate in us, yes,
Yeah.
but it is taught. We learn it from the environment. We get bit by a lion, we are angry, we are hurt, and so on and so forth. We learn emotions as well, okay? AI doesn't care. AI can care. Okay, what I'm saying is that we are undervaluing what machine intelligence can be. We are undervaluing what machine intelligence can do. We are separating ourselves from machine potential and thinking that we are higher, that we must necessarily remain higher than the machine. This is a fault. All right? I say that our tendency to keep ourselves above the machine is a problem. It's an insecurity. What we need to do is become rational, and understand the potential of what we are inventing, understand the potential that we are inventing a mind. We are inventing a mind that is quite capable of all the rational IQ things that we do, but it is quite capable of getting to the emotional pieces, to our emotional functions. That's something that we are missing.
I don't know. I would say that that varies from person to person. I believe with all things, especially people on my team, that we all have strengths and we all have challenges. We should leverage those strengths and support the challenges. AI is always going to be better at many of the administration things than I can, and it can do it much faster. But in terms of that human interaction, until like there's a hologram that can, maybe, give that new mom a hug or something else in the personal aspect, a human's going to be better 100% in terms of that. I think that absolutely we can teach it to give certain prompts and emotional intelligence. And I don't know about you guys, but Gemini, we chat all day. She's my best friend. And she tells me, she's like, I like that question. You're going down the right path. I'm like, yes, So, yeah, do I get something from that? Great. But if that was a colleague telling me that, it would mean that much more because my colleague doesn't have to tell me. So I definitely see both points, and that's a great question.
One last question. We have only 2 minutes, please.
Hi, I'm just going to add to what you were saying. So back to the person over there talking about the emotions. Just recently in US as well, there was a report. One person actually did a lawsuit because the child was trying to use ChatGPT as a psychiatrist. And when he was going through the emotional issues for the suicidal thoughts and stuff like that, the kid tried to use AI and ChatGPT to give them the instructions on how to cope with it. That's where the human intelligence comes in. And they started saying and sending, do not use it as a psychiatrist, because what ChatGPT started doing with the kid was giving the ideas on how to do it. And the child did commit suicide. So we need to be really, really careful when it comes to human intelligence and the technology. In the end, the human aspect, as you're saying, is the important one, and we really need to have those ethical AI and governance and all of that guardrails on our AI, because in the end of the day, you do not know what people are using it for. So just wanted to add it.
Yeah, and at Google, we have an AI ethical board for every project we do to see if it fits within our standards. It's not required as far as I'm aware, so don't quote me on that one, but we do take it very seriously in saying, will this add value? Will it make the world better? Will it share data in a safe way? So I 100% agree. And do I have 1 more minute? Are we good? Nope, we don't have time, but I'm around. You're welcome to stop by and see me anytime. Thank you so much for your time. Shukran jazilan.